Time for executive decision. We'll get some insight to the front office thinking from Liz. All right, what's the mindset of the front office 2 weeks ahead of the trade deadline, Liz?
So right now there's a lot of organization going on, and I'd kind of break it down into 3 categories. So the most exciting one is communication. You're starting to talk to the teams, see, are you a buyer, a seller, are you not sure yet based on the standings, and also trying to think of, what are your needs. I doubt that anybody's really exchanging names at this point, but they're talking about their needs and if they're a buyer or seller. The second is your internal evaluation. So that is evaluating the players that you might be trying to buy, but it's also ranking your prospects so that when a team asks about Blade Tidwell, you know exactly what to say. The third is kind of what my bread and butter was there, which was the operations. And so that was analyzing contracts, doing the, the payroll impact type of stuff, figuring out roster structure and, what transactions would need to happen for the trade. So it's a lot of that preparation, getting all of the information that you possibly need, and then understanding how to present that so that it's easy to use very quickly in the deadline room.
Yeah, right. I'm assuming that a lot of that happens throughout the course of the season, but now when we get down to it, a lot of tighten up going on. All right, and what's a trade that you think the Mets should make here?
Sure. Okay, so I want Eugenio Suarez. He's a player I've liked for a long time. He's probably going to be available at this deadline unless the D-backs really get back in the next couple of weeks. So I want to acquire him. I'm going to give up Jesus Baez, who is the Mets' #6 prospect, according to Joe DeMaio, and Jonathan Pintaro, who we saw a brief glimpse of earlier this year. I think there are probably people from the Mets side who would say that's a lot to give up. I think there are also people who would say Suarez is a really good player and he fits well on this team. He eliminates any lingering worries you might have at third base. He can DH for you. And I'm not sure what kind of big leaguer Baez or Pintaro are going to be. So it's a deal I'm willing to make in what's probably going to be a crowded marketplace for Suarez.
I think if I were in the Mets front office now, that would sting. I mean, I've always been huge on Baez. I think that he's a guy who could potentially stay at shortstop. If not, he has the arm strength to be an above-average third baseman. Pintaro, kind of older prospect, so you don't quite know how a team is going to evaluate him. If I was the Mets, I would do this and it would sting. I don't think the Diamondbacks are going to do it. I think that they're going to get a buyer who's willing to give either a much bigger prospect or a few more pieces in order to make it happen.
Boy, I'd love to get Suarez for that. All right, Hannah. And again, I understand the prospect hoarding and all those different things. I don't care about that. Hannah, what do you think here? You have a trade for the Mets?
Yeah, I went real bold with this when we're making TV. I had a similar thought to Anthony in that I was like, okay, I think we got to upgrade the bat in the infield. But my logic was, listen, with the logjam you have, Vientos, Beatty, Acuna, Mauricio, you need to move one of those guys out to make some room. So I'm looking to bring in Corey Seager and have him play third by paying down some of his contract. I think you don't necessarily have to give up a super great prospect because the Rangers are in a position where when they spent that $300 million plus on Seager, they were all in, and it worked. They won the World Series. Since then, their broadcast situation, they're looking to financially retrench, and I bet they would be willing to take lesser prospects, and they're getting back a major league ready player in Brett Beatty, and they're not totally sure where they are sort of in their contention window. They're probably disappointed to me having to sell it all at this deadline, but this is Steve Cohen has deep pockets. Corey Seager fully changes the look of your lineup, and he's only 31. You move him to third, he could play there a while.
I think that there's a lot of pieces of this that I think make a lot of sense. So I think, the Mets are in that luxurious position where you can take on more of that contract and give up lesser prospects. So that's really appealing. I think, as you mentioned, there's that bottleneck with kind of those Beatty, Acuna, Mauricios. All of those are kind of filling up, trying to be in the same position. You don't have room for them. And then you have other guys like Jet or a Baez maybe as he comes up who are also going for those same positions. So maybe this is a good time to do that. I think it's a really interesting idea. Will it happen? I don't know, but I think it's a really fun idea.